Stavanger on the southwest coast of Norway is the picturesque venue for the 1989 IAAF World Cross Country Championships. This fishing town, which is also an important base for North Sea oil, is one of the most northerly outposts ever to stage the event, traditionally the pinnacle of the cross-country season, particularly now the IAAF involvement has made it truly a worldwide event. Greta Weitz there, one of Norway's greatest ever athletes, amongst the big crowd on the Stavanger golf course to watch the 1,200 athletes from around 70 different countries in action. The men's junior race will start off the action over 8,000 metres, 3 laps of this undulating course. Around 130 athletes on the start line then for the junior men's race. Junior, incidentally, meaning that the athletes have to be under 20 in the year of the competition. Well, these athletes, being the first on the course, at least have the benefit of slightly sounder underfoot conditions than those who will follow them. There's been a lot of snow in Norway, followed by incessant rain in the last 24 hours, and that really has left the course very, very heavy indeed. Watch out, and already prominent in amongst the leaders there for the green vests of the Ethiopians. And already beginning to show towards the front the big pre-race favourite Addis Abibi of Ethiopia. Cool enough and calm enough to wave to a friend in the crowd, and as you can see behind him, already packing in well the green vests and red shorts of the Ethiopians. But the Kenyans, their major rivals for the team prize here, also well placed, and it's going to be a real battle between these two nations for the gold medal. British team also well placed here. The Italians have a lot of men in the first 50 or so. But the Ethiopians, the ones to beat, although the Kenyans actually took the title a year ago. The course quite hilly in parts, firmer in some places than others, but generally the conditions won't be to the liking of the African nations who prefer firmer conditions underfoot. And well on his way to victory now, this remarkable little man, Addis Abibi. The world junior champion on the track for 10,000 metres, and a man with world-class times to his credit on the track as well. I remember well his stunning performance in Brussels a year ago, 27:50 in 10,000 metres, which really is a time that any man, senior or junior, would be proud of. Quite a chase going on behind him now. Korea of Kenya, who won the Kenyan trials, and Nyamu, the other Kenyan, also in the first 4 here. Number 100 is Korea, Nyamu number 102, just a little bit further back. But the Ethiopians as well have currently 4 men in the first 10, and that's going to obviously stand them in good stead for the team title. But well on his way to victory, Addis Abibi. A lot of doubts about his age. It's varied over the years from 17 to 19. He's currently claiming to be 17, but no doubts that Korea certainly comes under the under 20 age limit, and certainly he is going to take the silver medal behind Addis Abibi of Ethiopia. And a really fascinating battle now for the team title. The Kenyans and the Ethiopians absolutely neck and neck here in this finishing straight. Nyamu of Kenya will get 3rd place, and another Kenyan, Osano, 4th. Kosgei of Kenya 5th, so they've got the next 4 men behind the winner. But then a lot of Ethiopian vests, so the team title is going to be closely fought. But a magnificent and comfortable victory for Addis Abibi of Ethiopia in the individual event. And there's confirmation of his victory. That team prize very, very close, but the Kenyans just retain their title over the Ethiopians in 2nd place. Just over halfway in the junior women's event, and the leader is Evelof of Sweden. She's only 16 and already has a lot of experience. She was in fact a finalist in the European Indoor Championships earlier this winter in the 1500 metres, and is a very good 1500 metre runner outdoors as well, where she has a personal best of 4 minutes 11. She hasn't really got away from the chasing pack yet. A lot still in contention, and again the red vests of the Kenyans evident. Kenyans not really quite so dominant in the women's events as they are in the men's, but they have several very promising athletes, and it looks as though in the years ahead they're going to enjoy just as much domination in the women's events. There's a check on the leaders, but Evelof of Sweden has really underlined her pre-race position as favourite and is on her way to another impressive win here. And what a future lies ahead for this 16-year-old, and a popular victory as well for the Scandinavian spectators. Coming home in second place, Olga Nazarkina of the Soviet Union. The Soviets with a strong hold here perhaps on the team prize, or at least they'll be well in contention, although the Kenyans then have a whole phalanx of runners behind the Soviet girl, so the Kenyans probably will capture that prize as well. But a European victory then. Evelof of Sweden wins it. Nazarkina of the Soviet Union was second. And then looking back down the course, Saina of Kenya comes in third. Then Wangari of Kenya fourth, although quite a way back. A big gap between the first three and the next. Ekimat of Kenya. So it looks pretty certain that with 3 runners in the first 5, the Kenyans will indeed capture the team prize. Lisa Harvey of Canada, all in red there, in 6th place. And then the Japanese runner, Shiki Terasaki. A confirmation of the victory for Evelof of Sweden. The Kenyans did indeed take the team prize ahead of the Soviet Union second, and the Portuguese took 3rd place. The senior women's race is run over 6,000 metres. That's longer than usual. 3 laps of the course, which by now I can assure you is very heavy indeed. We've already had those 2 junior races. 6 per team in the women's senior event, with 4 of them to score. ...130 athletes from 30 different nations for this senior women's race. And rather unlike the men's event, the African nations don't traditionally tend to be very strong in women's cross-country. In fact, the individual title has gone to a European woman almost every year since 1973, when the IAAF took over this event and it became truly worldwide. Indeed, the only exception I can recall was an American victory back in 1975. And a very similar story in the team event. No African successes at all, but the superpowers of the United States and the USSR usually do battle for team gold. You can see already up towards the front there the young Kenyan runner. And in fact, she's so young she could even have qualified for the junior event in Soto. Very narrow opening to the course here, and that's been the subject of some criticism from a lot of the athletes. They felt, and it'll be particularly noticeable I think in the men's event with so many more competitors, they felt that they really ought to have had a wider opening to the course here, because it possibly leads to a rather unfair advantage for some over others. Ethiopian green, Kenyan red, and the red of the USSR. Great Britain with a strong team here. Only the second year the British have sent a team. Previously, each one of the British Isles individual home nations had entered a separate team. And as England, they actually won the title 3 times. The last back in 1986, when Zola Budd took the individual gold. Still no really significant break in the early stages of the race. You can probably see remnants of the snow that they've had here. And that disappeared in the rain. As I was saying, has led to some very, very heavy conditions here. The sunlight belying the rather wintry conditions. There is a feeling that the African nations don't really enjoy running in these type of conditions, but I think that's something you can discount. I have seen them run well in just about any conditions. Lynn Williams now in amongst the leaders. The diminutive figure, all in red, just on the left-hand side of the picture. The Canadian girl, a very experienced track athlete. The clock on the left-hand side of the screen will, perhaps at a more significant point in the race, show the gap between the leader and the rest of the field, but as you can see, they're all so closely packed, it's not really relevant at this stage. A lot of British vests in there. Remember, packing of athletes, all important as far as the destination of the team medals is concerned. With your first 4 runners to score, I don't think this lady is going to really trouble the scorers too much at the rear of the field, but up there amongst the really serious competitors at the front of the field, the first 4 in each 6-woman team will score. Lynn Williams, interestingly now, beginning to get away from the others. Commonwealth bronze medalist Lynn Williams, and her husband Paul is due to run in the senior men's event later. And now the gap's beginning to develop. Just seen Angie Payne, the British marathon runner, going through, but back at the head of the field, Lynn Williams now beginning to build quite an impressive lead here. The Canadian, who doesn't very often run cross-country, but she's been in such good form this winter. Her training's been going so well that she decided she would give it a crack anyway. But these will be very unfamiliar conditions to her. The Canadian's not traditionally a cross-country nation, and certainly she won't be used to running in this kind of mud. Now, significantly, moving through into second there is Annette Sargent, the French girl, who won this title in 1987 and has a very good record with 2 bronze medals as well. Lynn Jennings of the United States, all in blue, also in the first 6 there. Jill Hunter of Great Britain I've seen go through. So the British, the Kenyans, battling it out for the team prizes as the crowd enjoy this rare sunshine, because they've had a very severe winter here in Norway, as that picture really underlines. 3,000 meters time just displayed, and the last kilometer 3:57, so obviously the conditions are having their effect on all the runners here. Lynn Williams tiring a little now, and she'll be psychologically disappointed, to put it mildly, if Sargent comes up, and indeed she has overtaken her. You could see that little glance then from Lynn Williams, and she knows that Annette Sargent always is strong in the latter part of the race, and that could be one of the most significant moments in this event. Sargent has now gone in front. Lynn Williams relegated to the silver medal position. And Goto of Kenya still going well, but on this slightly firmer part of the course, it's Annette Sargent with the lead now. 26-year-old French girl, the winner of the French cross-country trials. Always at home on the cross-country arena. Her track record not quite so impressive, and here's the young Kenyan girl. Goto still going well, just behind her Jackie Perkins of Australia in the white vest, then Lynn Jennings of the United States, Jill Hunter of Great Britain still running well, Veronique Collard of Belgium also in the first 7 or 8. Sargent holds the French records on the track at 3,000, 5,000 and 10,000 meters, and she went to the Olympic Games in Seoul, and well, actually it was a bit disappointing. She only just made the final. Lynn Williams here, also an Olympic finalist, and indeed a former Olympic bronze medalist in the 1984 Games in Los Angeles, over 3,000 meters. And there's Jill Hunter in the all-white, number 53 of Great Britain. Veronique Collard, we just caught side up, possibly had a little bit of a stitch then, just feeling her side. And these clinging, cloying conditions, a real test of stamina, as well as speed and ability. More like the traditional cross-country courses of old, an aspect of the sport which began in Europe on heavy courses such as these, but has since in recent years perhaps gone towards the more firmer underfoot conditions that have previously suited Annette Sargent, but she doesn't seem to have had any problems with these conditions today. She looks over her shoulder and she sees now there's been a change behind her, but really her lead is impressive enough, I think, for her to hold on for the gold medal. I can't see Sargent being overtaken now, but in the battle for silver and bronze, Stepanova of the Soviet Union has now moved through ahead of Lynn Williams into second place. Stepanova, a late addition to the Soviet team. They were due to run the great Olga Bondarenko, the Olympic champion, but she was withdrawn. Stepanova came in place of her, and not a bad replacement, because she seems certain of a medal now, with Williams in third place, and then a long gap back to Ngoto of Kenya in fourth. But Sargent, with less than 300 meters to go, has proved once again that no matter what disappointments come her way on the track, when it comes to the cross-country course, she is absolutely supreme. I remember in 1987, she overtook Britain's Liz McColgan in the final stages with a very impressive finishing kick to take the gold medal then. She has twice finished third, including a year ago when the race was won by Norway's Ingrid Christiansen, who's currently in preparation for the Boston Marathon and training in America, and obviously not competing here. Angela Tooby of Great Britain was silver medalist a year ago. She's absent as well because of injury. And Annette Sargent has underlined that she really was the classy athlete in this lineup, and she is on her way to victory. So for the second time in 2 years, the senior women's title has gone to Annette Sargent of France. A delighted smile, and that was a very impressive piece of running. Stepanova of the Soviet Union will get second. Lynn Williams, very, very fine performance by the little Canadian girl, unused to the cross-country conditions, but a bronze medal for her, as Sargent celebrates her victory in a big winning margin as well, as she looks back to see what's happening down the finishing straight. And Goto of Kenya, good fourth for her. She's only 18, we'll be hearing a lot more of her. Then Jackie Perkins of Australia, fifth. Then Jennings of the United States, always a consistent performer, got sixth place. Jill Hunter of Great Britain, a fine seventh. Veronique Collard of Belgium was eighth. And then Romanova of the Soviet Union back in ninth place. So there'll be a fair bit of interest when they work out the team positions, I'm sure. A lot of girls coming in together, but the medals have already been sorted out, and the medal in the individual event has gone once again to Annette Sargent. Angie Payne, the British marathon runner, all in white there, just finishing now in something like 13th or 15th place. But a competitive race, the leadership changing hands, but you almost knew that once Sargent had gone in front, that was it. The Australians doing well with another Aussie vest, McDonough in 14th place. Then Gruss of the United States, they always do well in the team event. Martine Fays of France. The French will be in contention for the gold medal in the team event as well. The Portuguese with two finishes in quick succession, Diaz and Machado, number 108 and 110 there. And two more Soviet athletes. So once again, when the positions are finally worked out, I would think the Soviets and the French will be in close contention for the team gold. The Ethiopians, who I'm sure we'll see figuring well in the men's event later. And what a tremendous race that promises to be. Portuguese will be happy with their finishing order. But just looking at things, they may just miss out on a team medal. The United States, previous team champions, indeed, they have a very good record in the team event. But there's confirmation of the individual gold medal to Annette Sargent of France. Stepanova of the Soviet Union, second, and a very fine bronze medal for Lynn Williams of Canada. And Goto, the young Kenyan, in fourth. Jackie Perkins of Australia was fifth. And the all-important finishing positions behind them really had a very significant say in the destination of the team medals, and it meant that the USSR won the team gold, France the silver, and the United States of America the bronze. So no real indication as yet that the African nations are likely to disturb the domination of the European nations in the women's cross-country event. And in particular, Annette Sargent, with her marvellous record now, 2 golds and 2 bronze medals, really a very worthy winner, and it's going to take a fine performance to prevent her getting in amongst the medals again. And so to the pinnacle of the day's events, the men's senior race over 12,000 metres. A little longer than the maximum distance on the track. They run 5 laps of the course, and the going by now is certain to be very heavy indeed. Indeed, I would think the golfers of Stavanger won't like the look of their beloved course tomorrow morning. But certainly we do anticipate here one of the finest cross-country races we've ever seen. Because in amongst the field of around 230 men who go to the line, are the great John Ngugi of Kenya, the man who has won 3 successive individual World Championship medals in this event already, a quite unprecedented achievement. 47 different nations represented, some of the greatest cross-country runners of this, or indeed any other era. Ngugi I've already mentioned. Great Britain have high hopes here, particularly of Tim Hutchings, who's been in outstanding form. Tim Hutchings, silver medalist in the world event back in 1984. The Kenyans, the Ethiopians, very, very strong. Always a wonderful sight, the start of this, the pinnacle of any cross-country season. Each team held in its particular pen, with the stewards just making sure that the athletes stand behind the line. 9 runners for each nation. There's the Kenyans checking their watches. The first 6 men home will score. Andrew Masai, number 138, just one of half a dozen Kenyans who are likely to be up there in the first 20 come the end of the race. There's the British contingent. Eamon Martin, number 75, a former British national cross-country champion, as indeed is number 74, David Lewis, alongside him. Away they go then. The all-red colours of Kenya, certain to be prominent. Their record in this event quite phenomenal. 3 successive team victories and those 3 successive individual gold medals for the remarkable John Ngugi. And watch out for the green vests of Ethiopia, the nation which was so dominant before the Kenyans started to take the event seriously. Ethiopia enjoyed 5 successive team victories between 1981 and 1985, already packing well there at the head of the field. Great Britain, in their familiar all-white, have the strongest team they fielded, possibly in the history of this event. And they look contenders for a medal. Tim Hutchings, I've already mentioned, in outstanding form with 8 cross-country victories this winter already. Now, this very narrow start is predictably leading to problems. A real scramble for places. And the Kenyans either taking a very laid-back attitude at the start here, or perhaps they just want this scramble to sort itself out before they start forcing themselves into the picture. Only 1 Kenyan vest there in amongst the early leaders, but a lot of this race still to go, of course. Feeling that the underfoot conditions and the weather in general in what is an unusually northerly outpost for the World Cross Country Championships won't suit the Kenyans. But as we've seen before, they're happy in just about any conditions. Andrew Masai, who we saw before the start of the race, the early leader here. The firm green fields and the hot and sunny conditions of Auckland in New Zealand a year ago was tailor-made for the Kenyans when they did so well. And I suppose you could say the wintry mud here really ought to suit the Europeans a little more. So the Kenyans might find themselves rather harder pressed than they were a year ago. They actually had 8 men in the first 9 finishes in Auckland in 1988. So Masai leads them through. Tesfaye of Ethiopia in second place. Lovely picture there from the high camera of this massive field of 230 men streaming down the hill. And what is important in cross-country is that you don't allow anyone to establish a significant lead, because unlike the track where athletes can always see their nearest rival, that's not so, of course, in cross-country, and psychologically the further behind you get, the more difficult it becomes to catch up, and also the leading runners are able to relax and run more fluently. And that's always so of the Kenyans. Masai still leading the charge for them. Gary Staines of Great Britain in third place now. And looks like one of the Portuguese runners in fourth. Gomez of Spain, I can see there as well, in amongst the leaders. Tesfaye of Ethiopia. And Tim Hutchings of Great Britain has just gone through the picture. Halvorsen of Sweden. Money-Getty of Australia. All the yellow vests of Australia together there in a little pack. And different runners choosing different routes to try and avoid the worst of the mud in the middle of the course. And even at this early stage of the race, these runners losing touch with the exceptional speed being set ahead of them. The Kenyans, incidentally, first took part in 1985 in this event when they were second, and since then they've won every team gold medal since they've entered: 1986, 87 and 88. Masai still their best placed runner here, and we still await the appearance of John Ngugi amongst the leaders. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain on the left of the picture, still running well in the first four. And Panatta, the little Italian there, all in white, splashing through the mud. A great character, the world steeplechase champion. A gold medal he won in glorious style to an ecstatic reception from the crowd in Rome a couple of years ago. Tough little man. Gary Staines on the right of the picture of Great Britain, all in white, who is not used to cross-country running by any means, also running well. Dave Clark and David Lewis, and then Eamon Martin. So the British really well up there and challenging for a big medal at this stage. Jeff Turnbull, another British runner, has just gone through as well. So rather surprisingly, the Kenyans as yet not really dominating in the team picture, although Masai is still up there for them as far as the individual places are concerned. Inicio Castro of Portugal, a Portuguese with a very good record in this event. Carlos Lopez, a 3 times winner of the world title. And there's the time, 6 minutes, 7.6 seconds at 2,000 meters. But of course, the time's never really significant in cross-country. Each course completely different from the other, and the weather and all kinds of other factors come into play. So times are not really important. It's all about winning. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain and Gary Staines, they actually train together side by side now with Masai, and then Panatta of Italy just behind them. Hutchings on the left of the picture, taking a totally different route from the other runners. Hutchings actually has had 3 weeks high altitude training in Kenya. He paid for it out of his own pocket to go and train on the slopes of Mount Kenya and get the benefit of high altitude, which by birthright many of the Africans already have. And some fine cross-country runners here already finding the conditions not to their liking. None of the men run 5 laps of the course. Canario of Portugal in the green shorts, running alongside Tim Hutchings. Panatta of Italy just behind them, and then Masai of Kenya. Tesfaye of Ethiopia on the left of the picture in the green vest. Gary Staines, the other British runner, doing exceptionally well early on here. And we still await the appearance of, there he is, right in the middle of the picture there, John Ngugi, wearing number 140. So he has moved up because he was towards the rear of the field early on. Perhaps he got lost in that early scramble. But Ngugi has now picked his way stealthily towards the front, and that's a sight that will frighten the rest. masses and masses of bodies. Many of these men know, of course, that an individual medal was never really realistically within their sights. And there's a check on the leaders at 2,500 meters. Masai of Kenya, Ngugi of Kenya has now really moved through into the leading group. And there he is, in fact, now out in front, John Ngugi. And the rest of them must know that once Ngugi has hit the lead, he's going to take some pulling back. David Clark and David Lewis of Great Britain. So the British with a lot of vests up there. They really are doing very well here. But as far as the individual race is concerned, although there's a great deal more of this race to go, as he skips over that little pool of mud, John Ngugi is in ominously good shape. Having said that, he only came 7th in the Kenyan Championships 3 weeks ago. But his form does tend to fluctuate rather strangely. I remember about 3 years ago he was as low as 76th in the Kenyan National Championships, and then a couple of weeks later he took part in the world event in Warsaw and promptly won a gold medal. So I think you can discount any suggestions that he's below form. That long raking stride, certainly not as stylish, John Ngugi. Tim Hutchings now in 2nd, Masai of Kenya clear in 3rd, Canario of Portugal in 4th, Gary Staines of Britain in 5th. And looking at the team positions as Ngugi now begins to stretch away, and there's confirmation of his incredible achievements. World champion 87 and 88 and 86 not shown on that caption, and Olympic gold medalist over 5,000 meters in Seoul. But the team situation really does look fascinating. The Kenyans, not surprisingly, are leading at the moment. Then Great Britain in 2nd place, ahead of the French and Ethiopia. Ethiopia have a marvellous record with 5 successive victories before the Kenyans came on the scene. And there's the time at 5,000 meters. Panetta of Italy still hanging on in there, the world champion steeplechaser. Tesfaye of Ethiopia just behind him. And then Gary Staines of Great Britain. And yet another of the Kenyans, that was Masai. Kip Kemboi is in the next group following as well. And yet another Kenyan vest goes through. That looks like Moses Tanui. So a quick calculation means that I've seen at least 4 or 5 of the Kenyans go through in the leading 10 or 12. Ngugi now in the lead then. Karachi has moved up to join him. Hutchings of Britain 3rd, Panetta still in 4th, and Tesfaye of Ethiopia now 5th. And then just look at those other Kenyan names, Masai and Tanui. Canario of Portugal dropping back. At 26 years old, John Ngugi running in a style that one critic rather unkindly but perhaps accurately referred to as looking a little bit like Groucho Marx, with that loping, rather ugly running style. But what does it matter when you can run as strongly and as well as he can? A member of the Kikuyu tribe, he lives in Munga, a little village in North Nairobi, 5,000 feet above sea level. And unlike many of the great Kenyan athletes, has never been tempted to join a United States college. He prefers to remain in his homeland, trains 3 times a day and absolutely laps it up. He loves running. Karachi now has clearly moved into 2nd place. Wilfred Karachi and Tim Hutchings of Britain 3rd. And then quite a gap back to Canario, the Portuguese runner, who seemed to have a bit of a problem in the last half a mile or so. He's clutching his side and may have suffered a stitch, which has hit his hopes. Moneghetti of Australia running well just a little bit further back, I noticed. But the crowd responding to the sight of the 3 times winner, John Ngugi. And Karachi of Kenya now getting away from Tim Hutchings. So the British athlete who was runner-up in the 1984 championships in America will have to dig in hard to emulate that particular feat. At least he's got ahead of Canario in 4th, and then Tesfaye of Ethiopia was 5th. Coming up to 19 minutes elapsed in the race, and John Ngugi, one of the greatest ever cross-country runners. He won by a massive margin of 22 seconds last year. Now, let's see how far ahead he is at this point. The clock on the left, which has just started, shows the gap between him and his teammate Karachi at the 6,000 meter point, or in other words, midway through the race. Well, it looked to be about 18, 19 seconds. And then Karachi himself 5 or 6 seconds up on Tim Hutchings of Britain. Then it's Canario of Portugal. Then Tunui of Kenya. Tesfaye of Ethiopia. Panetta just holding his side there. And a fine run by Halvorsen, the Norwegian. Monighetti of Australia. Gary Staines of Great Britain. Dave Clark of Great Britain. Lustum, the Frenchman. More Ethiopian vests, and then a whole phalanx of French runners. So at midway, John Ngugi and Karachi, the two Kenyans, out in front from Hutchings of Great Britain. And there's confirmation of the places behind them, with a lot of Kenyans. But John Ngugi seems on his way to a 4th successive victory. An astonishing achievement. Since this event really became a true World Championships, a trio of men have managed to win 2 in a row. John Tracy of Ireland, Craig Virgin of the United States, and Carlos Lopez of Portugal. Lopez actually won 3 gold medals in all, not successively. No one had ever won 3 in a row until Ngugi did it in 1988, and obviously, therefore, no one's ever won 4 in a row. That really would be an astonishing achievement. Karachi in 2nd now. Hutchings is 3rd, and Canario of Portugal perhaps catching him a little. Then Tesfaye of Ethiopia 5th. Then Masai and Kipkemboi. Panetta holding his side again. The Italian obviously in a little bit of pain here. And another Kenyan closing on him. But back out at the head of the race, John Ngugi with a very, very big lead. His Olympic success in the 5,000 meters was really one of the most astonishing performances I've ever seen on the track at that level. He just ran away from the rest very early on in the race, caught them all out, and went on to win in the bravest fashion. A man who scorns tactics, simply loves running, and you can see it in his whole approach. The camera perhaps foreshortening the true distance between him and Hutchings in 2nd, and then Canario in 3rd, then Tesfaye of Ethiopia 4th, Tunui is 5th, Kipkemboi is 6th. Panetta just losing out for 7th place. Monighetti of Australia still running well. Now coming into the picture, David Clark of Great Britain, a 3-time British champion. Then Gary Staines, and the inevitable crop of red Kenyan vests. The French running well here in the team position. And we can see what a big gap now there is from Ngugi back to, well, it's Canario now, so there's been a change there really as they came down the hill. And yes, Tim Hutchings is back in 3rd, and Karachi has dropped back. So it just shows you really in cross country anything can happen quickly, but I doubt that anything's going to happen quickly or otherwise to John Ngugi skipping through the mud there. I remember once seeing him when he first came on the scene and won a big junior race. It was a day almost as heavy as this underfoot, and he actually ran barefooted. He slipped and slithered all over the place, but still won by a massive margin. And look now, we can't even see the man in second place yet. Well, it's Karachi's forced himself back into the picture again, and Canario's really seesawing. He's been second and then back to fourth, now back to third again. So Karachi moving through into the silver medal position. Canario of Portugal is third. Hutchings of Great Britain is fourth. Then Tesfaye of Ethiopia is fifth. He's been consistently placed right from the start of this race. Tanui of Kenya sixth. Kipkemboi, Kenya seventh. Monighetti now, the blonde-haired Australian, eighth. And still Halvorsen of Norway, number 166 there, running very well. And Ngugi doesn't even need the luxury of looking over his shoulder now to see where the others are. Now Hutchings is back into the silver medal position, but running virtually alongside Karachi here. Tim Hutchings, a European bronze medalist, and indeed a Commonwealth bronze medalist on the track over 5,000 meters, and just missed out on a bronze medal in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, where he was fourth. And Panetta, again, the Italian, still clutching his side. I recall him doing that in the Olympics. So there's the standings. Ngugi and Karachi, the Kenyans, still with a stranglehold on those leading places. But as you saw there, Tim Hutchings now threatening to move into second place. And looking back down this long straight, Hutchings is just about ahead of Karachi. But the bell has sounded for the final lap. And John Ngugi on his way to victory, surely. But there's going to be a real battle for the medals behind him. As we look again, Karachi on the right, all in red, just ahead of Hutchings, as Ngugi goes on his own individual way. Hutchings slipping and sliding then, but the British athlete professes to like running in heavy mud, so he'll be enjoying it. John Ngugi, like so many of the Africans, running really in his blood. He used to run to school every day, and it wasn't just down the road, it was 6 miles to school and 6 miles back home again. So running very much of second nature to him. Tim Hutchings from the south of England, a man with a fine track pedigree, as I was mentioning. But his cross-country performances this winter have earmarked him arguably as Europe's best. And behind him as well, the British team continuing to do well. I've got them in second place now, behind the Kenyans. Although the Ethiopians are in strong contention as well. There's the clock on the left again, running to show the gap between Ngugi and the second man, and it seems to have grown. Hutchings has got himself yet again in front of Karachi. And when they cross the white line in the foreground of the picture here, we'll have an idea of Ngugi's lead. And there it is, over 30 seconds, something like 32, 33 seconds. Monighetti of Australia now right on the shoulder of the Ethiopian Tesfaye. And behind him, Masai of Kenya. And Kipkemboi. Halvorsen, the Norwegian, to the delight of the Stavanger crowd here, still running very, very well. He's been in the first 12 really from virtually the start of the race. Here's Panetta of Italy. The Stum, the Frenchman, in the blue shorts. The Kili of Ethiopia, and then two British runners together, Staines and Clark. And Mockery, another British runner as well. So They really are pushing hard for a team medal. And this, the heaviest part of the course. But it's not going to bother John Ngugi at this point. Has proved to be unpredictable over the years, Ngugi. When you are expecting him to run well, he doesn't necessarily do so. But look at this now. This is astonishing because he's actually overtaking and therefore lapping some of those runners at the rear of the field. And in a championship of this status, on a course of this nature, that really is unbelievable. But Tim Hutchings, going very strongly through this muddy section, has got himself in front of Karachi again. So it's Hutchings of Britain second. Karachi of Kenya now is third. Tesfaye of Ethiopia fourth. And then it's Moneghetti, the blonde-haired Australian, in fifth. Masai, Kenya sixth. Kip Kemboi, Kenya seventh. And Ngugi can afford to slow and relax as he approaches this downhill sweep. Kenyan camp, incidentally, before the championships here, was set back by allegations of fraud amongst their officials, stories that several of their top athletes had been denied payments that were due them, and obviously that's caused a lot of consternation in their camp and unsettled them, but you'd hardly believe it from the way they're running here. Just seen Hutchings, who is in the second position at the moment, going through the camera, and there is Karachi now in third, Moneghetti fourth, Tesfaye fifth, Masai sixth, and the Spaniard who we haven't mentioned yet, Alejandro Gomez. But with less than 500 meters to go now, John Ngugi is going to write yet another chapter in the remarkable story of the man who is surely and now unarguably the greatest cross-country runner the world has ever seen. Tim Hutchings has run the race of his life, because really a lot of men must have started this race by thinking that a silver medal would be the most they could achieve. And Ngugi, with 3 successive titles behind him, was always going to be the favourite. So second place, in a manner of speaking, was going to be victory for whoever could secure it. And it looks like Tim Hutchings of Great Britain has got it now. That runner just coming through there is being lapped. And Karachi now clear in third, with Moneghetti in fourth. But it's the finishing straight for the incredible John Ngugi, the Olympic 5,000 metres champion, who says he will move up to 10,000 metres on the track this summer, and heaven knows what he'll be capable of over that distance. He's run through 12,000 metres on an undulating and muddy course that couldn't have been to his liking at all. He would have preferred firm going, but he's got on with it. He's run superbly well, and he's decimated world-class opposition yet again. An unprecedented 4th successive world title for the great John Ngugi of Kenya. And in second place, Tim Hutchings of Great Britain repeats his achievement of 5 years ago in New Jersey in the United States, because he is now well clear, and indeed, looking at the clock at the bottom there, he's actually managed to reduce the gap between himself and Ngugi on that final loop of the course. A great silver medal for Tim Hutchings of Great Britain, his second in these World Championships. Karachi of Kenya will take third. Moneghetti of Australia holds on to fourth. Tesfaye of Ethiopia will be fifth. And then Gomez, the Spaniard, has run well for sixth place. That's a surprise. Then 2 Kenyans, Masai and Kip Kemboi, and another Kenyan, and that means for sure they have got the team prize again. Tanui, the next to finish in 9th place. A lot of home support for Halvorsen of Norway in the white vest there, 10th. De Stum, the Frenchman, 11th. Then we see Panetta of Italy coming through. Bakili of Ethiopia next. Gary Staines of Great Britain. So that's a fine run by him. And right behind him is Dave Clark of Britain. And that will mean, by my calculations, that Great Britain get the team silver. So the results in the individual and the team mirrored by the fact that a Kenyan won the individual gold, and they are certain to win the team gold. Britain won the individual silver, and they are certain to win the team silver. Kiptum, another Kenyan just finishing, then the Italian Bettiol in the white vest, Esparcia of Spain, and then a couple of the Americans finishing in close contention. But let us salute the great John Ngugi of Kenya, winner of the IAAF World Cross Country Championship for an incredible 4th year in succession. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain, the silver. Karachi of Kenya, the bronze medal. And what a fine run by Moneghetti of Australia, a surprise 4th place ahead of Tesfaye of Ethiopia. Well, there's the next 5 finishers, but the position in the team event was that Kenya won the gold medal once again, their 4th gold medal in succession. Great Britain and Northern Ireland were in 2nd place ahead of Ethiopia, who were 3rd. Another outstanding World Championships. We hope you enjoyed our coverage. From Norway, goodbye.